Wettest single month since records began. Wettest single day since records began. Sadly, this is now the new normal. But 400,000 times in 12 months, that is the amount of times that UK water companies poured untreated human effluent into our rivers, lakes, streams and seas in 2020, using extreme weather as their excuse. Untreated effluent. To be clear, that is actual shit. Piss, tampons, sanitary towels, panty liners, toilet paper, baby wipes, cocaine, vomit, battery acid, bleach, toilet cleaner, cat litter, recently deceased aquatic pets, or any of the other stuff you stick down your toilet in an emergency or otherwise. 400,000 times in a single year. And this isn't just 400,000 toilet flushes. This is 3.1 million hours of massive overflow pipes being deliberately opened to spew out billions and billions of gallons of raw sewage into our once beautiful rivers and seas. Okay, so unless you are actually a Conservative minister, there are going to be very few people still watching this that don't agree that this is wrong on just about every single level. Even Felicity, who you will hear from at the end of this video, when my temporary assistant Doris,
that's a deep state scam, isn't it?
Reads out her views on why coal-fired electricity is the future. It's a classic, so do stick around for that one. But first, I'm going to talk about what this means to you, even if you don't even live near a river, why it's happening, why it is getting worse, and why only public outrage will change it. So, let's get on with it. So how did this all start? Privatisation. When a public service is privatised, quite simply it becomes a vehicle to make money and no longer a public service. The service is now to the shareholders and not the public. So to stop feckless corporations from actually taking the piss when a public service is privatised, feckless politicians put in a few terms and conditions so that we, the public, continue to get a certain level of service, and the profit-driven companies that now control these public services don't shit all over us, or indeed in our streams, rivers, tributaries and seas. So, what could possibly go wrong? I'm going to talk specifically here, but for the less intellectually gifted amongst you, and yes, Felicity, I'm talking directly to you, please understand that this is not limited to this particular example, and it is not limited to this particular public service or ex-public service. Our National Health Service will soon be going the same way. Be afraid, be very, very afraid. But anyway, this year, the Environment Agency successfully fined Southern Water £90 million and also hit them with a £126 million penalty. That's £216 million in total for knowingly and deliberately pouring billions of litres of raw sewage into the sea. And even as the fine and penalty were being handed down, Southern Water's own records show that they were continuing to pump human effluent into our waterways. I am not making this shit up. The point here is that it is cheaper for Southern Water to pay the fine than to invest in the infrastructure to solve the problem, which is estimated by experts at between £4 billion and £63 billion. That's for the whole of the UK, which is pretty close to the £57 billion in dividends. This is just dividends, not salaries or bonuses, that the UK water industry has paid out to its shareholders since their foundation in 1991. I mean, shit! Let's just assume these guys are doing a great job, which clearly they aren't. But for the purpose of this, imagine if they are. That's £57 billion of our taxpayers' money, my taxpayers' money, your taxpayers' money, real hard-earned cash going to shareholders. Shareholders! Imagine what could be done with that if it was still in the public purse. NHS, home insulation, railways, buses, homeless, police, ambulance, green subsidies, youth centres, street lights, TV licences for pensioners, education, higher education. 57 billion fucking pounds. Why aren't people angry about this? I digress, but the point here is that they are doing a shit job with our shit. And they don't care because nobody is personally accountable for the criminal actions of these corporations. It is simple accounting, and as a result, as a business, they are doing the bare minimum to make the absolute maximum. This public service is now a service to shareholders, to profit, and to rampant, unbridled capitalism at its very, very worst. Why should you care? Are you shitting me? They are pumping billions and billions of gallons, even as you are watching this video, into our rivers, lakes and seas, where the fish on your table come from, seeping into our reservoirs and water table where your drinking water comes from, whilst robbing the public purse of billions of pounds. So what can you do? If you voted for the Tories in the last election, it is easier to list the Conservative ministers who didn't vote to block a bill that would require water companies to improve sewage systems which are likely to be damaged by storm overflows and demonstrate progressive reductions in the harm caused by discharge of untreated sewage. That seems pretty tame to me, yet all but 22 Tory ministers tried to block this. But there is more, so maybe they have a point. Let's see. Water companies and the Environment Agency will have to publish data on storm overflow operations every year and publish near real-time information about any overflows, including the location and when it stops. Well, that seems fair as well, but there's more. Let's go on. Water companies will have to monitor water quality upstream and downstream of a storm overflow. They'll have to produce clear drainage and sewage management plans too, to explain how it will cope with storm overflows. Well, again, that does not sound unreasonable to me in any way, not restrictive or unreasonable. Yet all but 22 Tory MPs voted against that. There is a link in the description below to the entire voting record on every single MP. So if you care about the environment more than you care about party allegiance and your MP is on that list, it is surely time to march on Parliament, pencils held aloft, and to break these chains of tyranny. By Parliament, I mean the ballot box, obviously. So to be clear, just to make sure nobody comes breaking down my door for trying to help humanity, what I actually mean is you might really want to consider voting for somebody else at the next election. I will be voting for the Green Party, and I explain why here. But at the very least, if your MP is on this list, you should be writing to them, emailing them and asking them to explain themselves. Oh, and don't take the "it will cost £660 billion to put it right" argument. This is absolute and utter bollocks. It's the old think of a number, double it again and double it again trick. The experts say a maximum of £63 billion, a maximum. Look, if you found this video interesting, please do share it. You can share it on Facebook, you can share it on Twitter, you can share it on LinkedIn, Reddit, or anywhere else for that matter. Because of the nature of my videos, trying to help save life on this planet as we know it, YouTube clearly think I'm some sort of subversive. So consequently, I don't do particularly well on their algorithms. So any help I can get to reach more people is really appreciated. So coming up next is the Angry People's Postbag, where Doris reads out a beautifully thought through message from Felicity. So do stick around for that one. But apart from sharing this video, please do subscribe to my channel. Let me have your feedback. How would you vote if your MP is on this list? Do you care about this issue? And don't forget to hit the like button. It really does feel good. Doing all or any of these things really does help me spread the word and hopefully affect positive change. So since recording this video a couple of weeks ago, there's been a government compromise that all 22 Conservative rebels have now got behind, which offers a bullshit business as usual, self-governing, get-out-of-jail-free card. Collect £200 as you pass go. Like it's a game of fucking Monopoly and not a case of billion-pound corporations actually pouring actual raw sewage into our actual rivers. Campaigners for clean water said the government's compromise was too weak and did not impose a legal duty on water companies to stop releasing raw sewage into waterways. Which is correct, it doesn't. Whilst Rebecca Powell, the Environment Minister, said it does place a duty on water firms in England to progressively reduce sewage discharge from storm overflows. Which is wrong, it doesn't. Surfers Against Sewage said, just last week, the UN Secretary General warned world leaders at COP26 to stop treating nature like a toilet. The government has failed to fully seize the opportunity in the most urgent of environmental decades to make an example of water companies to say, if you pollute, you fix it, you pay. Martin Salter of the Angling Trust said, at a time when public trust in politicians has once again been shaken, we hope MPs will stand firm and insist on clarity and action by ministers to create a pathway out of pollution. That's a laugh. Whilst the Department of the Environment, and I'm not making this shit up, have said, we have every confidence that the provisions in this bill will absolutely deliver progressive reductions in the harm caused by storm overflows, and any suggestion to the contrary is both disingenuous and untrue. I'm not making this shit up, but the actual government amendment passed on Monday states a sewage undertaker whose area is wholly or mainly in England must secure a progressive reduction in the adverse impact of discharges from the undertaker's storm overflows, reducing adverse impacts on the environment and reducing adverse impacts on public health. What sort of double-speak, toothless fuckery is that? Undertakers, progressive reduction, adverse impacts. Carry on doing exactly what you've always done. But if you can undertake to tell us next year that if you poured untreated sewage into our waterways perhaps 399,999 times instead of 400,000 times, and then the following year maybe 399,998 times, that will show a progressive reduction. How about go to jail, go straight to jail, do not collect 200. This is not a fucking game.
And now it's time for Angry People's Postbag with Doris.
So welcome back to the Angry People's Postbag. This week's offering comes from Felicity. But before we go there, I want to point out that this issue is not just human effluent that is polluting our rivers. And I would encourage you to watch Rivercide, yeah, spelled Riverside, that covers some of the stuff talked about today, but goes into much more detail on how bad our rivers actually are and what you can do on the ground, as it were, to help. There is a link here and also in the description below. So, with no further ado, over to my temporary assistant, Doris.
Temporary? Temporary now, is it? That's not what you told me the other night after the pub when you asked me home, told me not to bring Gavin in case your dog didn't like him, and it turns out you don't even have a dog. And I ended up getting home really late and woke up all the kids who are crying now.
I'm sorry, Doris. It's not you, it's me. I wonder, can we talk about this later? And perhaps you could just read out the message from Felicity. Is that okay? Okay, we'll talk about it later, I promise.
Okay, but I won't fall for that dog biting Gavin trick again. Gavin is Fuman!
Fair enough, okay. Can we have just the message now, yeah?
We need to follow Germany and several other EU countries and build coal-powered electricity stations and open mines up for that coal. And of course, get fracking, or we'll be getting freezing and food from the local food bank. Just don't let the bloody Greens fool us once again.
Thank you, Doris, thank you. And thank you, Felicity, and thank you for watching. And if you'd like to see the video that elicited that response from Felicity, you can see it here. And there's another one here you might like on COP26. I think that's a wrap. I wonder if anybody understood the relevance of my t-shirt. It was supposed to be ironic. See what I did there?